In the quiet little town of Purrington lived a very clever cat named Professor Whiskers. He wore tiny round glasses, a bow tie that was always slightly crooked, and he loved to invent things. Helpful things, silly things, occasionally very messy things. His workshop was filled with ticking clocks, bouncing springs, and at least 14 teacups that were not supposed to be teacups. One morning, Professor Whiskers had a brilliant idea. I shall make the perfect yarn ball, he declared. This would not be an ordinary yarn ball. Oh no! This yarn ball would never tangle, always roll back to you and bounce just enough for fun. He mixed glittery fluff, stretchy string, and a teeny splash of fizzy formula. Then he pressed the red button. Out rolled the most colorful yarn ball anyone had ever seen. Magnificent, purred Professor Whiskers. But just as he reached to pick it up, boing! The yarn ball bounced. Then it bounced again. Then it started bouncing faster and faster and faster. Oh, Whisker! Wiggles! Gasped the professor. The yarn ball shot out the window, bounced across the street, and rolled straight into the town square where kittens were having their daily playtime. Yarn! They cheered. They chased it, they tackled it, they hugged it, and then, poof! The yarn ball exploded into 1,000 tiny strings, wrapping around hats, tails, benches, and even the ice cream cart. The kittens looked like fuzzy walking sweaters. Professor Whiskers rushed into the square, tripping over yarn the whole way. My invention has become extremely cuddly, he said nervously. Just then, the yarn began to wiggle. Oh, no, said Professor Whiskers. It's still active. The string slithered off and zipped toward the library. After it, shouted Mayor Meowington. Professor Whiskers grabbed his emergency invention bag and sprinted after the yarn. Inside were his most important tools: bubble boots, catnip crackers, and his trusty undo-anything remote. Inside the library, the yarn climbed shelves, wrapped books, and tied together 3 very confused pigeons. Coo? Said one pigeon. Hold still, said Professor Whiskers, clicking the remote. Nothing happened. Oh dear, I brought the TV remote, he sighed. Suddenly, the yarn rolled into one giant ball again and started glowing. It's going to explode again, cried the kittens. Professor Whiskers took a deep breath. I may be small, he said, but I am still a professor. He opened his bag and pulled out a tiny mouse-shaped robot. Professor Nibbles, activate! The robot zoomed forward, nibbling through yarn at super speed, untangling everything in its path. Zip, zap, snip. The giant yarn ball shrank smaller and smaller and smaller until finally, plop! A normal little yarn ball sat quietly on the floor. Everyone stared. Then the kittens cheered. The pigeons flapped free. Mayor Meowington adjusted his hat, which was now half sweater. "Professor Whiskers," he said proudly, "you have saved the town from extreme fuzziness." Professor Whiskers blushed. "Well, science is all about learning from your mistakes," he said, "and sometimes cleaning them up." That afternoon, the kittens got to keep the yarn ball safely non-exploding, and Professor Whiskers promised to test inventions outside from now on. As the sun set, Professor Whiskers sipped tea in his workshop. He looked at a new invention labeled Self-Filling Fish Bowl. He smiled. Then, slowly, very slowly, put it back on the shelf. "Tomorrow," he said wisely, and Purrington slept peacefully, with only a little bit of yarn stuck in its trees.